The temptation for anybody watching a video like this is, hey, these are just rare occurrences within local and state police departments. This doesn't happen all the time. This isn't something that we need to really be concerned about. We're not dealing with an epidemic here. This is from Phoenix, Arizona, ABC 15. This is Dave Biscobing. He's constantly exposing the indiscretions of people in the Phoenix Police Department, and there's a lot of them. This isn't a case of this few bad apples scenario. This says Phoenix PD retaliates against people who criticize them. And before I play this, actually, I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to go to another article to another police department in Fontana, California. And I want to drive home the point where if you are a thin blue line backer, if you back the blue, if you just broad brush declare that you support local, state, and federal law enforcement, you need to think twice because you could be supporting abject criminals.
Officers violently arrested this man. Why? It's because he insulted one of them. We uncovered this case, and it's now cited in the DOJ's final investigation against Phoenix police. I'm ABC 15 Chief Investigator Dave Biscobing, and this is another story in a special series. We're taking the DOJ's written report and turning it into video. Now, the video you just saw is part of a larger pattern. The DOJ found it's a pattern of Phoenix officers unlawfully retaliating against critics. The feds covered that issue on pages 81 through 84.
Part of a larger pattern. Where have we seen that before? Oh, I don't know. It's something called the Mullen Commission. And the Mullen Commission had a conclusion after investigating the New York City Police Department for widespread police criminality. And I'm just going to remind you, and we'll get back to Dave Biscobing's story in a second, but this is the conclusion of the Mullen Report back in the 1990s. Remember, this is off the heels of the Knapp Commission. The Knapp Commission was started because Frank Serpico within the NYPD said, hey, there's some real bad stuff going on here. The Knapp Commission said, yeah, there's some bad stuff going on there. That's in the 70s. 20 years later, in 1994, the Mullen Commission comes out with this conclusion. Today's corruption is not the corruption of Knapp Commission days. Corruption then was largely a corruption of accommodation of criminals and police officers giving and taking bribes, buying and selling protection. Corruption was, in its essence, consensual. Today's corruption is characterized by what? Within the New York City Police Department. That's the biggest police department on the planet, not just in America, but in the entire world. Today's corruption is characterized by brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality.
And as always, we want you to follow along. Just scan the code for an official copy of the DOJ's report.
I was knocking on your window.
Phoenix PD officers unlawfully arrest or use force in response to criticism, insults, or perceived disrespect during daily encounters. Often, within seconds, officers react with force to verbal slights. That's what the DOJ wrote, and that's exactly what we exposed.
Do you realize how corrupt you have to be exposed by the Department of Justice?
In your way until you stop. Don't. Okay.
Well, this arrest didn't make the news. No deaths, no shots. So while a case like this flies under the radar, it's also the kind of arrest that can grab the attention of federal investigators. Remember, right now in Phoenix police are under a top-to-bottom Department of Justice investigation.
Oh, you don't say. The Phoenix police are involved in a top-to-bottom investigation, just like the NYPD, just like a lot of departments in California. What's going on here? Seems to be systemic. I'm not seeing a few bad apples. I'm seeing an entirely bad apple cart.
Turns out it was a case that caught the DOJ's attention because it's listed as their top example. Quote, for instance, while this investigation was ongoing, in 2022, Phoenix PD officers slammed a man into a police cruiser.
While the investigation is going on, you think if there was any time to really watch your P's and Q's, cross your T's and dot your I's, it's like, okay, guys, we need to chill out on all this abuse, at least while the investigation is going on from the DOJ, but they couldn't even do that.
And began to arrest him seconds after he insulted an officer. Our story showed what happened.
We're across the street from where it happened. When did it happen? So it happened August 2nd of 2022.
This is Kenny Ronald McDonald, and we're across the street from PLEA, the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association.
Kenny Ronald McDonald. You can't even make this stuff up. A guy named Kenny Ronald McDonald is abused by a bunch of badged clowns in Phoenix, Arizona.
Police union. It's not the wisest place to do what Kenny did. While an officer was parked in the PLEA parking lot, he rode by and insulted the officer. Now, the audio doesn't begin until this point.
Have a good day.
Another officer shows up.
You know we could go code 6 and for riding left to center. We could.
They claim Kenny continued to insult them from the sidewalk after 10.
You know what that's called? That's called two guys getting together conspiring against another person. That is 18 USC 242, conspiracy against rights, which goes along with 18 USC 241, which is deprivation of rights under color of law. So these Phoenix police officers catch themselves on their own body cams conspiring against another American's rights and then depriving that American of his rights under the color of law.
Minutes, the second officer pulls out of the parking lot. You can see Kenny ride up, knock on the window.
Can you help me out with something? What do you need? There's a bunch of people that need help over. You guys help people, right? What do you need? Do you help people? I'm asking you.
The man confronted the officer to point out that police were not helping unhoused people across the street. As the man complained, the officer told him by arguing he was obstructing police operations.
Yeah, getting in my way. It's called obstructing police operations. Oh, yeah? I'm going to a call right now. So, if you don't need anything... I wasn't in your way until you stopped. Don't... Okay.
Oh, there you go. Contempt of cop. Called him a dumb arse. God, his ego's too bruised. It's too fragile to put up with that.
The man laughed and called the officer a dumb. Immediately, the officer grabbed the man's arm and slammed him into the police cruiser in order to arrest him.
I called him a dumb, and it's very clear, that sent him over the edge. Yeah, he arrested me.
Our reporting also exposed other problems with the arrest, problems not cited in the DOJ's report. For example, Phoenix officers are not allowed to physically force someone to provide fingerprints, but they did.
I'm not going to give you my fingerprints, man. It's not up to you. I know, but I'm just not going to. Well, it's not up to you. Okay, I know. All right, we'll pull you out and we'll force you then.
Wow. Forcing fingerprints on this guy. And the DOJ does not report this. They omit this in their report. Why? If there was ever an example of a violation of the Fourth Amendment, it would be this. You're supposed to be securing your person. They're making him insecure in his person, grabbing his most precious private identity, his fingerprints. Look at him pinching his ear.
One of the main cops involved was this officer. We've told you about him before. He's the one who shot a protester in the groin in 2020. The shot leading to this hate speech-inspired challenge coin. Now, we also exposed that officer and another involved in this arrest were both on the Brady list, and police and prosecutors didn't drop the charges until the morning of trial. That's when a judge ruled officials could not hide those officers' troubled pasts.
Why would you keep an officer on the force? Because government's not eloquence, it's not reason, it's force. And like fire, it's a dangerous servant, it's a fearful master. Why would you keep a cop in the department when he's on the Brady list and you can't trust one thing he said because somewhere along the line he's falsified reports? How can you even trust that guy to be? That shows how much these leaders, these commanders of these police departments care about the public. They have great disdain for the public and will put a liar in charge of operations in that zone.
From the jury.
The fact that the officer was on the Brady list is relevant, and the court will deny the request that precluded from testimony in this matter.
But Turiano wasn't the only.
Because we can't believe one damn thing that comes out of that cop's mouth, or he wouldn't be on the Brady list. But you still decide to keep. If you're going to put somebody on the Brady list, kick him off the department.
Officer on scene with a history. Remember the first officer, Brian Alvarado? Well, on the morning of trial, prosecutors claimed they just got a new internal investigation showing Alvarado submitted timesheets requesting to be paid for more hours than he worked.
And we've got this report from Alvarado today. The state no longer believes we have a reasonable likelihood of conviction, so it's in the interest of justice to dismiss it.
Here's the last thing the DOJ wrote about this arrest. When we spoke to the man, he told us he had multiple cuts and bruises from the encounter and continues to experience nerve damage from his injuries over a year later. He explained that he sometimes changes his route to avoid passing a police station. "I'm moving around the city much differently," he said.
You're bringing this on yourself.
Yeah, because what we have here is we have domestic terrorists. Now, remember when I said I would go back to the Fontana Police Department? Do you remember this story right here? And I'm showing you this because people are still under the delusion. They're under the impression that it's just a few bad apples. These are intentional criminal acts against a public you're supposed to be protecting and serving. Psychologically tortured. California City pays man nearly $1 million after 17-hour police interrogation. 17 hours? Officers threatened to kill the dog of Thomas Perez Jr. as they pressure him to falsely confess to killing his father, who was alive. That's not a psychopath? That's not a megalomaniac? 17-hour brutal psychological interrogation? A California city has agreed to pay $900,000 to a man who was subjected to a 17-hour police interrogation in which officers pressured him to falsely confess to murdering his father, who was alive. During the 2018 interrogation of Thomas Perez Jr. by police in Fontana, a city east of Los Angeles, officers suggested they would have Perez's dog euthanized as a result of his actions, according to a complaint and footage of the encounter. The judge said the questioning appeared to be unconstitutional psychological torture, and the city agreed to settle Perez's lawsuit for almost $900,000. Coercion, force, threats, violence from the protectors and servants of the people. And you still think it's just a few bad apples, especially when we have the Mullen Commission stating that, hey, we got widespread brutality, theft, abuse of authority, and active police criminality. I think some people need to take some heads out of some arses. What do you think? Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comments section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell notification icon. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my brand new channel called The Disturbing Illusion, where we expose the left versus right paradigm lie that basically starts the laws that create less freedom for Americans. Subscribe, like, and share this video, and I will see you in the next one.